Black people, we are important. We are worth supporting. Welcome to the Elevation Sessions powered by my book, 200 Years from Niggas to God, the guide to becoming a mature nation. Today, we're diving into a chapter that separates the mature from the reckless, the builders from the broke, and the focus from the foolish. Chapter 5 is called Learn the Laws of Business and Investing, because no matter how strong you are, if you don't understand money, you're playing someone else's game. And today I'm talking to my guy Fred. He's from Chicago. He's a military man, but more than that, he's a strategist, a quiet leader who understands what it means to move intentionally. So let's get into how men build not just discipline, but wealth that protects and projects that discipline. So what's up, Fred, man? Thank you for being on the show today.
It's all good, bro. Thank you for having me. We go back sometime in your hometown of Oakland. So, man, I appreciate you reaching out to me, bro.
Right on, man. Again, man, thank you for being on the show, man. So in chapter 5, I wrote the greatest trick ever played on our people was teaching us how to work for money, but never how to make money work for us. And so that isn't, in 2025, that it's not about working harder, it's about thinking smarter. So when it comes to money, when did you realize you needed a different strategy?
I think coming out of high school, I always was a person great at government and economics. So my teachers always said that they said I should run for president, right? But
Hey,
as you know me, I'm a spiritual person. So the dynamics are different there. But I would say a big changing point was when I met this brother from the Philippines named RP Antonio. He just
mm,
pulled me up one day when I was like 18, 19, and I was in the Marine Corps at that time before the Coast Guard. And he said, Fred, what are you spending your money on?
mm,
And I was like, okay. He's like, yeah, the typical stuff, shoes, clothes, McDonald's. I was
right,
like, yeah. He was like, bruh, save half of your paycheck. You have no children, right? And it's
right.
like,
That makes sense.
just hit me with that. And I'm just like, he's telling the truth, right? So from that moment, I never forgot that, right? And so that stayed in my mind. So that was
Right.
the really first point I think where, I realized like it's one thing to read about things, but it's another thing to put things into action and also at least try. You don't get
Correct.
nowhere unless you try. So yeah, I think that was the a really big time where I first started, looking at money, obviously being in my first major job in the Marine Corps. So that's what I would say.
Okay. All right. So, what do you feel is something you were never taught about money growing up, but you kind of had to learn the hard way?
I think a common thing for many of us is, credit, but not just credit, but using the principles that you learn and depending where you grow up or how you grow up. I know you don't liquidate cash into cash, but credit is not cash. So taking that credit and using it to make cash assets. You know what I'm saying? Like when you don't have it. So learning being, I guess, intentional about when you do get credit, managing it the proper way so that you can, turn it into cash because it is somebody else's
Right.
money. It's kind of like people doing the hood. They buy some weed, they flip it, and I think
Right.
that's how I look at credit. You take you take the credit, it's not your money originally, and then you can use that money to pull more cash to you. So I think that's something that I had to look at to say, okay, credit actually is useful, and it's simple, but it's that simplicity of just being open to learn and not being afraid. And so that's what I think I learned because I wasn't taught about credit growing up, man. I mean,
Right.
who on the block knows about credit really? When we all,
Right.
you know,
Well, I mean, on the block you learn about credit. I mean, that's the credit you give. I give you 20, I want 40 on the first. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That was the credit we learned right there.
yeah, I know. Or you go to the check place, you see your parents and stuff go together, So it's yeah, but dealing with the credit of the world when it's on a bigger level is something that I didn't learn.
So how did so You said, being taught about credit, and that was something that you wish you were taught about growing up, because I know most of us aren't taught about growing up. So how did you learn about credit the hard way? Like, what was something that happened that made you say, "Oh, I better kind of like maybe work on your credit score or really protect your credit"?
So I got married at a young age. Um, and when you go into marriage, especially at a young age, you don't have you it's based off of ideals. So you try to compromise with another person. And during that process, there was times I went into debt. You know what I'm saying? Uh, because I was trying to compromise and maybe I'm thinking the wrong way and that person. And at that point, I learned that you just can't go out and just buy all these things because there was no management there. I wasn't thinking management. You was thinking like, oh, I can just pay it back. So I started
Right.
learning through the process of honing in on, okay, you have to have simplicity. You got to know your limits. You can't just think because what happens is like emergencies come up, things come up, and now that might throw you off on what you can pay on those things that you have taken a loan out on or whatever. So just
Right.
something that's within my means, not that, and being mindful of my means, what's really my limits. And so I think I learned through that time period in that marriage, specifically, the real deal about the hardships of going through when you don't actually manage the credit that you are getting.
Right. Right. Learning credit and figuring out that's a tough one. I mean, I think most of us probably won't even get to that until our 25s, 30s before we can understand how that credit really affects us for the long haul.
Mhm.
So so my next question would ask you is like, do you think as do you think black people are pressured into looking rich before they actually are being rich? And if so, where does that come from?
I think, of course, I think there's a double-edged sword to everything. I think one, it comes from the programming, of just looking at TV and what success is defined by television. And being that a lot of us grew up in poor communities, we wanna feel better about ourselves. So sometimes we
Correct.
look outwardly first and inwardly, right? But I also think it comes from a unique perspective from our souls. I mean, in our ancient lives, I think everything's in our blood. So I think that, in ancient times we thought of gold as being from the sun or sweat from the sun in the Incan Empire or in
Mm,
even cultures, African culture. So I think we remember it somehow and we are fascinated with it because it's a part of our ancient culture, but we just don't know why. But I think it's just in our Akashic records within inside of ourselves. And so
mm,
sometimes it's a part of our swag, our natural being. And so when we do get a little bit, we like to shine because we were born to shine. You know what I'm saying? That's our natural.
correct.
So I think it's a little bit of both in today's modern time, but I think originally we came from it. We came from the cloth, the soil. So it's
Correct.
all we know how to do is to shine. But when you're put in a box, you're trying to shine your light enough so you can come back into remembrance because the ray of the remembrance is to come into the light. So I think it's both the programming of today's trying to find a little bit more pride in ourselves. And the first thing that we think nowadays is from the physical aspect.
Correct. I like that. I like that. What you're saying it's kind of already in our DNA, like it's already part of us. I mean, we rich from the soil. You know what I mean? The soil created us, and so it's somehow embedded us that we still need to kind of like show that shine. I like that. I like that. And so the next part we kind of getting into like the mindset over money. Because I definitely believe and I definitely wrote in the book that we are not meant to just work, pay bills, and die. We are meant to build, own, and control. And so I was just wondering, how did your time in the Coast Guard or the military shape how you manage pressure, and how does that apply to business or money today?
I think as a young man, when I first entered, I kind of went to war right away, right?
I didn't know
And
that.
yeah, so because I was in the Marine Corps, I went to Iraq twice.
Mm,
You know, when you're young like that, you're very impressionable. But going overseas, you know, in Iraq, you seeing the oil wells burning. You seeing other people, in their lifestyle, and I'm picking up wallets with people's family in there.
yes.
You see the bigger picture. You start seeing how even war is about money. And unfortunately, in this game, you know, you start seeing like everybody's intention is not always good. But seeing that how you got trucks out here, logistics, all these things, aspects are moving, all these pieces are moving, and in this world, it takes money, which is, obviously a currency, but it's not the only currency because it took my energy as well. So, which is a currency. So, looking at the dynamics of how to translate that, like these skills that were being used over here, even in those times, was I think a perspective of changing because I actually after coming back from there, I stopped in Australia and I started looking at it like, yo, well, in this world, you need money to move anything because that's how the world is set up. So really, I think more so, my mind started to elevate on the thought process of needing money to do the things I wanted. I mean, obviously, when I was younger, seeing drug dealers and all that stuff changed my mind on money because it was the opposite side to that I saw in Iraq too. People kill for money in this world. So my idea is you can do good or you can do bad with money. And I think obviously the one that we look at is doing the good for ourselves, for our families, and those of our friends. So yeah, my mindset changed on it being is it depends what you do with whatever you have. And so
Mhm.
that comes down to management. You can have a little but still be rich. And so that's how my mindset changed on money. I realized that it wasn't the richest part of me would be my soul that would dictate how I would manage and do with what I had. And so I think going through my experiences earlier, whether it was my childhood or going through my early adulthood, taught me that the world is bigger than the South Side of Chicago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
so if that makes sense to you. Yeah, it's just different
right.
avenues for me that made my mind change on money.
That's right. And a lot of people think that being financially disciplined means that you're being cheap. So I was wondering, what does financial discipline really look like to you? Like, like a lot of people think when you want to be, hey, you want to save some stuff, you feel like you just have to hold back and be cheap, but it ain't really all about that. It's about really just being strategic. So I was wondering, what does financial discipline really look like to you today?
Management. I think knowing what you have, I kind of mentioned it earlier, knowing your limits and your goals. I think whenever it ain't about being cheap, it's more so about what are you working this job for if you are working a job in the current state, right? And looking at, okay, what am I trying to do? And then saying, hey, let me pay myself first. You know what I'm saying? Let me
Correct.
give myself a little money because I know I got to pay these bills, but what is the purpose of me working if I'm not being able to do and accomplish the things that I really want to? So I think
Correct.
management is the biggest key. And that doesn't mean you have to be cheap. That just means you have to be aware of what you really have. Some people be like, you know, oh, I got this much. I'm just going to spend here, and you just spend it. But be aware, be like, I just spent $24.92 right there. Okay, I'm aware of that. You know what I'm saying? Because
Right.
when you start managing like that, it becomes what they would call second nature to just be like, okay, I understand. Like, yo, I'm trying to maintain this amount right now until I get paid again. That income coming in. Boom. So you can keep going towards whatever goal you have for yourself. So that's what I think. I don't think you have to be cheap, but I think you do have to be mindful through management.
Correct, correct. I mean, you put it beautifully there. I definitely have to agree with you 100% there because you don't have to be cheap to really reach your financial goals, man. Again, you just have to be aware and manage, like you said, the things that you're spending your money on. Maybe this month you're not going to buy the $400 bag or whatever. You might put it up. And I was even thinking about that. I was even going through my mind a little bit about that, thinking like everybody, how we all say just support, right now in a time that we in, I think we just need to support black people sometimes, whether we into that product or not. And so I was thinking like we not even just as a small, little challenge or something, say, every month spend $100 with some black folks, put your money into some business if you haven't yet, because it's really like you said, money is what move everything. And if we really want to get to this God state, I feel like because I remember I was also reflecting on that. You know, I remember an old saying used to be say to me, a saying that used to stick in my mind was that, you know, suckers do what they can and man, players do what they want to do. And so, you know, that's where kind of like, you know, this book is kind of set up to is where like when you that nigga, you kind of like in that sucker mode and you just doing what you can to survive. You know what I mean? And when you in that God mode, you can do what it is you want to do when you want to do it because you've managed your money, you've managed the time, you've managed your, you know, getting to know your neighbor. I mean, you know, these are all principles, set out in the book 200 Years from Niggas to Gods. So, you know, I'm definitely glad you brought that up because I'm feeling that like 100%. And so, you know, now I kind of want to get into like building with intention. Because, you know, in chapter 5, I put like, if you don't own it, you don't control it. And ownership isn't just about real estate, it's about owning your time. You talked on that a little bit, owning your temperament, knowing when and when not to take it there. And also owning your trajectory, knowing where you're going in life. So I think, you know, with those type of ownerships, I like to ask you, what kind of legacy are you building right now, financially and mentally?
Look at yourself right now. Who are you? More importantly, who do you want to be? Every day you make choices, every day you move, but are you really living or just existing? You were never meant to be stuck. You were never meant to just survive. You were built to build, to lead, to master. Enough. The difference between staying the same and leveling up is one decision. One moment when you say, no more. I refuse to stay here. 200 years from niggas to gods. The transformation starts now.
Well, first, mentally, for myself, obviously, I'm a very spiritual type of person that loves to dive into myself first and foremost. So, reshaping my mind. You had a quote in your book that says, "If you don't like what you are right now, you can rewrite your existence." You
Oh, I
know,
love that line I wrote there
so,
too.
so all the time I'm rewriting my existence, man. My purpose on this earth obviously looks different than another man's purpose. So
Correct.
mentally, I have been preparing myself my whole life, man, from my conception, just with the knowledge of my ancestors, right? But also through my own experiences. I am the book of life. I'm a walking book. So that setting that up first, because a man whose mind's in poverty, it don't matter how much money you give him, he's still gonna be in poverty because his mind's in poverty. So I've been setting that up. And that's the preparation that I think the creator puts us through in order to receive. Now, when it comes to the financial aspect legacy, things that I am doing is taking that risk to go into cryptocurrency, like property, like, you know,
Yes,
kind
sir.
of things like that that I actually, have taken a risk to do, and I'm also a person that don't think inside the playground box that I was grown in. I'm a person that thinks in other countries. You know what I'm saying? So me getting my nieces and nephews and my daughter and family to think outside of what we know, because a lot of times we're stuck in comfort zone. So when it comes to financial opportunities, I say, look, if you don't have all the capital that some of these people out here, because there's a lot of competition here in the United States, you can go to
Absolutely.
other places where your money go longer, and you can invest there where you can get more, and then you can build your capital. You know what I'm
Correct.
saying? So those are the type of mindset that I think that I am promoting when it comes to that, because that's some things that I have been doing, and that's my trajectory, part of my life path. I think for me, that I see it maybe better for me, because I'm a person that enjoys freedom, man. I don't like to be
Correct.
under nobody's thumbnail anymore. I did 20 in the military, so it's just that way, man. For me, find your.
Congrats on that. You retired military now? You retired?
Oh yeah, I'm retired. I'm retired. So
Oh man, congrats on that.
thanks. Yeah. So yeah, find your way to walk it, because if you don't have a passion behind it, it's gonna be hard to support it. And that's what I would say with the finances, that the mindset and the taking the action look at what it is that you love and allow your gift to make room for you in this world.
That's right. So, so how do you teach financial responsibility to the people around you without preaching or judging? Like, how do you get people to understand that, like in the book, we're trying to get us to, learn the laws of business, finances, so we can set up that generational wealth. How do we get our people on track to think like that without preaching to them and judging them?
Example, my brother, for example, uh, he's never went to, like travel out of the country really like that. Only when he was younger, I guess. So I could tell him everything about what was going on and all that. But in order for him to really get the gist of it, he had to do it with me, right? So he
Right,
saw my videos and things that I was doing with people when I was leaving. He saw that. That was the example. That put the urge in him, his soul to want to be like, you know what? I want to do it. And one day he finally committed to it. When it became real to him is when he was doing it himself. So he saw how I was moving out there with people. He saw people was opening up sea moss business because we were in places like Tanzania where there's a lot of sea moss available. And you have brothers who was from Barbados, from England. They were shipping it back, selling their sea moss.
yeah,
So he was seeing the dynamics of how many people from different walks of life you get around when you travel. And so I think by setting an example that there's a different way to do this, based on your personality and what you want to do, that's a perfect example because though my brother is not too much younger than me, he still considers me his big brother, and he's walking around looking at like, dang, bro, you be moving a certain way. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, that I didn't have to say anything. He acknowledged that.
right,
I wasn't aware that he was watching me like that. But
right.
in yourself, authentic, and even though I'm growing myself, the things that I do know sometimes I don't give myself enough credit. And I think that's what we have to start doing. We have to start realizing whether we know it or not, people are watching us. And through
No,
just
they are definitely watching us and copying us
exactly.
and trying to be exactly like us, but act like they don't want to do nothing with it. They don't want to have nothing to do with us. You know what I mean?
I feel you. Now I feel you. We know that. I know what you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Being authentic and being the best version of yourself you can be will go a long way. Always trying to be that because other people are watching, whether it's your babies, whether it's even your own father can be watching you and learn from you.
Oh, come on now.
So that's all I can say, brother, about that really, because it's really, if you're not preaching or judging, living your life to the best ability will go a long way by people just seeing it. Because you can talk about it all day, but our people, when you doing it, just like I was asking you, bro, hey man, where did you put that book at? You doing it because I got my book, but you're doing certain things that I need to learn from, or our other brothers. So
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
it's a difference when you're doing it. Now I'm like, yo, bro, how did you do that? You see what I'm saying? Versus,
Yes,
yeah, I'm
sir.
like, do this. I'm like, oh, okay. You see what I'm saying? So real talk, it, it,
Yeah.
it, it hit different when they see you like moved in silence, and now you done popped up and you rolling with it, and they like, bruh, you where? You in Bora Bora? You know what I'm talking about? So it's
Right. So
different.
just doing it, just doing it. You ain't gotta say a word. Just do it and move. And they since they are watching, they gonna either move like you or move away from you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like that. So, so if you could go back and teach your 25-year-old self something about money, what would it be, man? If there was one thing that you could kind of say, I wish I would have learned this earlier and I could get to this, what would that be?
I would be more future forward. I would take more risk, you know, um, and just be more present in the moment. Like I feel like sometimes we're so comfortable with what we know that we don't take the time to say, you know what? Let me jump off this bridge into that water and see if I can swim. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because sometimes you gotta, well, no, not sometimes. You gotta learn to have confidence in yourself all the time.
All the
Like
time.
and the ability to know that you can learn something new. Yes, it's outside of what you've been raised to understand, but you know what?
Mhm.
Being present helps you say, you know what? Use that intuition. A lot of
Yeah,
times we like to see what we see and it causes fear. But sometimes you got to jump off that bridge because we've seen so many times where 5 years, something that we could have invested in is now at this value.
right.
And I give you a perfect example of it. I have a partner of mine who's very he'll take a risk, fail or pass. He gonna take a risk, and it's why
Yes.
it's good to have good people around you. We all got different gifts in different ways. He was talking about this property. Like in you know, hey, yada yada yada. I bought this. I did this, and I'm like, oh, okay, man. Like yada yada yada. Then he said, oh yeah, it made 25,000 already. I'm like, you just bought that? For me, standing on the bridge, I'm walking. Imagine me walking across the bridge to being like, oh, like man, I jumped off the bridge. I'm like,
You already there. Give me
I'm,
the key.
oh yeah. Once he said like, cause it was just like he bought it yesterday. I'm like, bruh. But it's just sometimes we need to see somebody else that we know. Like for example, you who doing that to inspire us deeply because they say a prophet is not a prophet in his own home. But when you
Mm.
recognize the greatness of your own friends, even in front of you, that's when you're able to say, no, that's something greater speaking through that man. That's the God in him speaking. You know what I'm saying? And so even you, who is a friend that I've had these talks with you all the time about spiritual things and all this stuff, finance, whatever. But as you're doing it, I'm seeing the God in you go about this journey to put out your gift. You said another quote in your book, pretty much leave this world empty with your gift.
You know what I
Don't
mean?
you leave, you know what I'm saying? And that's something that one of my other teachers that I listen always used to say as well. So seeing that in your book, of course, I'm in alignment with it because our gift has to be shared with the world. So yeah, bro, that's what it is for me.
Right on, man. Right on. So we'll close, and I ask you the last and final question, which is, man, how did your brother do on this book, man? How did the book do? What you think about it? And just give me your insight on the book in general.
I think you did a great job, first and foremost, by just putting the book out. Second of all, I got more from the book the second time I read it.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes we're in a different space and time. At the first time when you sent the book, I was in a process of moving and everything. But as I sat down in a more peaceful state, I'm like, that repetition, bro. A lot of
Yes,
these
sir.
things I've heard in my life, but sometimes you need to hear it again and again and again until it promotes action in you. So when I was listening to you this time, I'm like, oh, my brother, he's spin the game. The
Yes,
subconscious
sir.
mind, the rituals of exercise, listen, ritual, meditate, all of it coming together because we do need economics. So I definitely enjoyed your book more thoroughly even the second time, bro, because it was
Yes,
just
sir.
like, you know what? Oh man, bro is putting it out there. We need to hear this. You know what I'm saying? We need to hear that mindset of being a god, a master, man.
Yes,
And
sir.
it was something, yeah, it was I don't know, man, it was beautiful, man. Second
I
time,
appreciate that.
I really got to take your book in.
Yes,
So yeah,
sir. I appreciate that.
and yeah, definitely appreciate the wisdom you sharing with the world, bro.
Yeah, man, right on, man. Fred, I appreciate you, bro, man, for showing up and showing what quiet elevation really looks like, for proving that structure and success go hand in hand, and for helping other men see something deeper. Financial power is emotional power, just directed through discipline. That means money management isn't just about knowing numbers, it's about controlling impulses, staying focused, and being emotionally mature enough to delay gratification. That kind of power builds real wealth. And so if you're watching this and you felt any of that message today, don't wait. Tap into the 200 years from niggas to gods, the guide to becoming a mature nation. Just get the collector's edition where you get the ebook, the audio book, an original soundtrack done by me, and that fabulous artwork. It's all designed to upgrade your mindset. So peace, black people. We are important. We are worth supporting. Thank you, Fred. You got one more thing?
Yeah, I wanted to say something. First of all, like you said, get your book because it is great, man. Like, it's gonna get your mindset. And I also want to say, if you don't mind me saying this, I also have a book.
Yes, sir.
you know, that will complement a book like his. His is about, I think, for us generations who are the leaders. Mine is a children book. It's called Rose and Mama Wiz. And I think a book like that for your children will complement that and set an early foundation for the children just on a spiritual level. Because putting the economics with the spiritual aspect, I think, is a great mindset. And my book, you can get it on Lulu Books as well. And so, yeah, I just wanted to put that out there because I'm also doing positive things with that. So, yeah, bro, that's
Yes,
all I
sir.
want to say.
Nigga, we ain't gotta be nice. Nigga, we ain't gotta sell drugs. Nigga, we really rock right, nigga. Nigga, we truly godlike, nigga. Nigga, we been building space stations. Nigga, we are the United Nations. Nigga, the globe is too small, nigga. Niggas will always run y'all, nigga. Nigga, we are worth support, nigga.